Hi, everyone. It's Lynette Hoy. Welcome to another edition of the Firetalker Wisdom Training. And I'm excited today because I'm going to be covering some things near and dear to my heart. And one of them is research. The other is personal research in terms of how we're showing up and what we need to do a bit differently to jazz up our routine as we seed and nurture that visibility platform I've been talking about. Because for it to be really bountiful, so the media can't ignore us, there are certain things we need to put into place. So the two things I'll be talking about today are research and how to personally research ourselves and what we can do to beef that up. And all of these things play together from our previous trainings. So I really encourage you to start at the beginning and look at these trainings as we go forward. This is our third one, and I'm very excited to be moving forward on this journey with you. So the first couple of trainings we're touching about our media presence on our websites and how to go about moving that forward. Now remember, I mentioned it previously, that two ways for you to fast track your presence is to get on podcasts, get interviewed on podcasts. And Nancy Jutton's Broadcast Your Brilliance Bootcamp is one of the best ways to fast track that process. Now, here's the key though. You need to be able to show up professionally, have a nice clean presence, have a nice background, and have something that floats with who you are. Like for me, I love to inspire those to take action and embrace their fire and grow their business with publicity and promotion. It's one of the things I love to do. So as we move forward, think about other things regarding that. And that would be putting up a banner behind you with your business logo on it. I prefer something like a canvas, which is what I'm having prepared right now, actually. Next week on the 2nd, I'm speaking for the Idaho nonprofit organization for a nationwide conference. And behind me, I'm going to have something fancier in terms of how I'm showing up with my branded presence. So that's really important when you're being interviewed for podcasts and something to really think about. Now, the other thing to think about is being set up with a media one sheet, which is also something that you'll learn on Nancy Jutton's program, but it's really a sheet for podcasting, because depending on what media we're going after, those media sheets will shift and change. Just like if you have a speaker one sheet, that's quite different, right, than the one that you would produce for getting media attention and being interviewed. The other thing to remember is to have your full bio, your 50-word, 100-word, and possibly your 150-word bio, along with your questions and answers. So I want you to go back and listen to the other trainings, and you'll get more of a feel for that. And here's the fun part. As a reminder, on Fridays, we do what's called a Friday jump. As we prepare to jump into the weekend, we have a gathering at 9:30 Pacific time on Friday mornings. Now that may also change to later in the day, depending upon how these things play out. Sometimes Friday evenings are tough for people. Sometimes Friday mornings aren't so easy. So we will figure it out, because I want everyone to be able to be here. And I realize many of you are in transition as professionals, and you may not be able to join me until later. And I really want you to be here. All right, so on with the training. So today, I'm going to take a drink of water here. And I encourage you to do the same. If you have a beverage of your choice, please keep it handy, or a cup of tea or something. And feel free to jump up and grab that. You can always pause me or just keep listening and jump back in. So the next thing I want to talk about is research, PR research. Now, this is not marketing research, very different animal. This is public relations research. And what that means is we are seeking out those that want to interview us. we're taking the high road and saying, this is a must, this is definite. We want them to know that we're their go-to for their stories, for features, for quotes, to get picked up as the expert in television news programs, the whole gamut. So how do we do that? Well, we have to show up. And it's what I've been teaching you so far in getting those seeds into that visibility platform. And now that actually at this point, we have planted those seeds into our rich soil. And now we're going to continue to nurture it as we go. And by the time we're done with today, your platform, sort of like a beautiful garden box, right? Has little sprouts now. So you're beginning to see the labor of love blossom in your garden box of visibility. So I am going to share screens with you in a moment, and I'm going to show you the difference between a contributor that is actually a guest poster or perhaps has garnered a seat as a contributor and they are paid per article. So let's look at that first. And the reason I'm showing you this is because these are all people that you need to know. And the reason why it's so important to do our research to see who our people are, who are our media people, is because in the year 2020, nearly 68%, according to Pew Research, of media employees across the board. Now that means writers, that means reporters, that means co-hosts, producers, floor directors, everything. Every media type personnel across the board experienced layoffs that went from furloughs to buyouts of big contracts to permanent layoffs. So what that means for us is to be really cognizant of who was our last media person? Who was it that used to call us and ask us for stories about particular things? Or who was it that you were following and making note of where they hung out on social media, which, by the way, 90% of your media folks hang out on Twitter. That's their place. So it's a great place to research in the search bar in Twitter, just like Facebook or any other social platform. It's a great opportunity to find out where your people are. So I really encourage you to spend some time and do your homework, because since all the layoffs, the people that used to cover your beat might be covering how frogs are raised. So unless you've shifted your whole gamut to raising frogs, clearly you need to find another media person to work with. Okay, now we're going to jump to a couple of online publications. The first one is going to be Forbes, and I will share screens with you. Excuse me while I get this little technical thing figured out. Okay, I'm going to move this over here and move my little picture over here so that I can manage this more effectively for you with my screens. First, we're going to jump to Forbes. And you can tell on this site. Now, remember that many magazines are no longer in print. I don't believe that Forbes is one of those, but I know for a fact that their copy, it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So over time, many of these even very popular magazines will no longer be available in print. So right here, we see Jonathan Panachino, I believe that's probably right, Panachino. Now, if we click on Jonathan, we see that there's all sorts of articles that he's written. Now, if he is a staff writer, that's how these things show up normally. So let's back up. And here we see Forbes staff, but often one of the best ways to find out if they're our person is to click on their name and see what kind of stories they're writing about. Look at their headlines. And this may or may not be your guide, depending on what your expertise is. But my point is, it's always good to click on that to see what else they're writing about besides this particular story. And then also, if it says staff, then we know that's the drill. Here's another one. PR News would be a place that I often go and want to get picked up and featured within my industry under the public relations umbrella as an expert. Here we have Erica Bradbury for this story. If I click on her name, then we see stories by Erica, and this kind of gives me a little dead giveaway that she's also staff. Here's the thing, they don't always say staff. But if there is no little bio with it of any kind, and I scroll down to the bottom of her first page and there's still nothing here, that tells me that Erica is a staff writer. So the reason I showed you Forbes and then PR News is so that you could see. So if they're a staff writer, it's either going to say that or it's going to take us to other stories. Now, if Erica turns out to be my person, she's my human with media, then I want to follow her, see where she hangs out, see what she does. Typically, staff writers will not have any icons. Not always, but typically. So you have to look them up online. I would start with LinkedIn so you get more information. And then I would go straight to Twitter to see what they do, because you have to find out where they live. You have to do a little mini stalking. That's all there is to it. And nowadays, a little mini stalking is not life-threatening and is expected so that you know, through your mini stalking who your media people are. Now, we're going to go here to Life Coach Magazine, and we're going to see something a little different. See how nothing is highlighted here by Laura Cohen? Very interesting, right? Now, if we scroll down, oh, what do we see? A little mini bio of Laura. Now, many magazines where it said Laura Cohen at the top will be hyperlinked to her at the bottom to show this little bio. But what does this tell us? It says who she is. It talks about what she writes about, what her passions are. And then we have a website that goes and takes us to learn more about her. Now, the reason that's important is because that tells us the difference. She's a contributor, probably a guest blogger or guest poster, not a paid staff member. That doesn't mean she doesn't get paid per article. She might get a small stipend of $25 or $100, but at the end of the day, she is getting tremendous exposure, and Life Coach Magazine knows that. But here's the other thing, just because she's a contributor or a guest poster doesn't mean that we can't reach out to her. So how do we do that? It's going to be obvious to you, right? We're going to go to Laura Cohen and we're going to click on contact and we're going to write to her and we're going to tell her about how much we've liked this article or that article and that you want to present yourself as an expert she can call upon. What does that mean? That doesn't just mean, oh, I'm an expert and you can call on me. So I'm just going to type in here and no, I'm not going to type in the message. You guys get it. So in the message, you're going to say, Dear Laura, I loved your article on so-and-so. I wanted to introduce myself. I would love to be a go-to source for you in your writing, and you want to comment on a specific item within a specific article where you think you might be of service. Now, remember, we are all being of service to the media. That's it. We're not trying to sell anything. We're not doing any serious calls to action at all. At all. Not when we're pitching someone in the media to use us as their expert. No pitching in terms of our product and our services. But here you want to give a link to what? Your press room, your media page, whatever it is that talks about who you are, why you're important, why she should care about you and want to interview you. Part of why she's going to want to interview you is you're going to have downloadable images for her. You're going to have a short little 50-word bio for her, should she need it. She'll likely want to pull a little bit of information about your expertise, and you're going to give her some quotes in this message. If you'd like to use some quotes in regards to certain articles you've written, like XYZ, if you're doing that in the future, here's a couple of quotes for you. And I would love to be able to tailor something to your next article. If you need any additional information, again, here's my link. You can put the link twice as long as there's more than 75 words between when you post that link or when you place that link. So here's what I encourage you to do. After you're doing your research and you come up with a couple of little email blasts or little message blasts you want to give, let's talk about them in the group. I want you to post them in the group, copy me or tag me, and let's talk about that and make sure that it's not salesy. Let's make sure that we are being of service to the media and that we're giving the information that's needed. I'll likely be asking you a lot of questions. So when you post, make sure that you've done your homework on Laura Cohen, if she's your person, right? Now we're going to go to another page here. Today, we all know the Today Show, right? Well, they have today.com. They've got a community board. They've got a parenting team. And guess what? They take a lot of contributors like you and me. You have to go through their process and set up an account. You can also go down here to the bottom. And it doesn't say there. It used to have a contact us down there. Interesting that it no longer does. So what you want to do then is go into the community tab and go to the parenting team. And here, search around, you'll find some information. Long version would be to do a search and, contributors, user-generated content, any of these things. Now, this is why it's important. If Joelle can do it, you can do it. And look what happens when I click on Joelle's picture. We talk about her, talks about her total votes for her great articles, how many readers she's had, how many articles she's written, and we have a bunch of those down here that we can click on. Now, why is Joelle so important if she's one of their contributors? Same reason as the other woman, same reason as Laura Cohen. And Joelle might just be a good contact for us. It talks about that, her, where she is on Instagram, talks about things that she writes about here, things that she loves, and we get to go to her website. Isn't that sharp? This is something myself personally that I want to strive towards, only more catered to my brand. But this whole top third or before the fold is so critical now. People love it. And depending on your brand and how you're selling, if it's just you're selling or it's your brand, you might mix it up. And there's some times where we might be bringing people into the group to talk to us about that I'm going to be interviewing. So stay tuned for that. But here's the good thing about this lovely woman, Joelle. Oh, she's a publicist, lifestyle writer, author. This is the type of shift that many PR folks are doing, including myself. I am at the beginning stages of it. Now, you can go to the bottom, I am sure, and reach out to her. I do not see an email little icon, but if you go here and do your homework, most certainly you can find her. Another place you can find her, what did we see? Facebook, Pinterest, YouTube. I would go to Facebook. If there's no way to contact her, like through a contact page, 9 times out of 10, we're going to find her on her icons. Now, the problem is if her icons are not working, boy, that makes it tough to reach out to her, doesn't it? But you can definitely message her. You can follow her. And actually right now, more than likely, it's just that these links are broken to Facebook. But you get my point, okay? So just because someone is a contributor and not a staff writer does not make them someone that you don't want to get to know. Here's another reason why it's important to get to know folks that contribute. They know staff writers. They know the ins and outs of how a particular publication, whether it's online or off, works. So it counts as part of our PR research. Here's another one with Entrepreneur Magazine. Jill is a professional speaker and business communication expert. Now, depending on the publication, how they're presented is going to be a bit different. Now, if Jill was a staff writer, it would say staff writer, or it would take us to all their articles, right? Here we learn a little bit about her, and we have her. Now, this is about a 100-word bio, by the way. And if we click on the dynamiccommunicationbook.com, this is going to take us to her website. And here you can contact her or go after her social media and contact her that way. But these people are more than happy to talk to you, get to know you, any of that. Now, here's another thing that the media does. Not only are we researching them, but remember I said a little something about that personal research. So if we do, gee, here's somebody we all know, Brene Brown. If the media is looking to interview Brene Brown or get a quote from her, they can see already that she is a leader in her industry, right? We can go to the Brene Brown website. Notice that there are no ads here. There are no ads listed at the top before her links, her website, etc. And the reason for that is she is so high up on the ladder that it pushes everything down, and they will not have ads on this page. Another reason could be her account with Google, but typically this is because of SEO. So now if we click on her website, here's what we find. If we go over here, we're going to see media contact and press kit. We're going to see other info, downloads and guides, etc. So we're going to go to her media. Look at that. This is what you're looking for. This is the kind of pizzazz, or like what I've taught you in the other trainings about different press rooms and press kits. It's all dependent upon what your goal is. She is a teacher and she is a sought after expert and the go-to for the media. That's what you want to be. So you find an image. Here's another really powerful one, is finding an image where you are in it. Now, she doesn't need that because she's already there. And here's another way that we know she's there. Because the media has to fill out this form, and look at all the country, deadline, subject, request, all of that. It's all laid out for the media, and they know that she is a well-known expert, and this is what they expect. From you and me, not so much. And that's why when you go down here a little further, you've got our official bio, you can download it. And guess what? We have approved photos as well. Now, if we look at Dr. Ellen Leica, which is someone that I have talked to you about in previous trainings, we go to his press room. Here's another bigger than life press room. Only we have the doc featured here, and we're letting them know with some media bling that he's been around campus a little bit. And this is the layout for someone that is a life coach going for those big speaking gigs. And we're making him bigger than life here. We've got podcasts, we've got the downloadable images, and we make it super easy. We click download, and the reporter contributor, writer can download it right onto their desktop. Now, I'll bet if we go back to Renee, this is there, which means we have to right click and save the image. Here's the difference. If you've got a junior writer that is looking to write about her, chances are, because she's so high profile, she's going to ask her editor, she's going to ask somebody, how in the heck do I download this picture? But myself personally, I think this is a much faster and efficient and clean way to do it. Now, when you become as big as Brene Brown, you just really don't care about that anymore. You don't need to. Although personally, I still think making it as easy for the media as possible is deeply important. Now, if they have other photos they want and this doesn't work, this up here, they're going to put in the request. I'd like a headshot of this, that, whatever it is. So we can see by looking at these bigs just how important a media contact and press kit is. And there's more information at the bottom of her page. I highly recommend you go and take a look at it. Now, on the other hand, Kiva Leatherman has been around for a long time. If you've ever heard of the Wise Women Network, she was a very prominent person within the East Coast community and nationwide in terms of helping women transition, helping them grow, and she became quite famous for it. And you can tell, I mean, the whole first page is nothing but her. What else do we see? Nothing else at the top, no ads. Now, she does not have a Google business page, obviously, or a Google business account, or we'd see more here. But there's another thing that the uneducated eye would not know. And that's that Kiva has married and she is on a different mission. She's gotten a little bit of coverage here with Intrado, Global Newswire, on a mission to empower 1,000 new parenting coaches to end childhood trauma. This is her new mission. This is, I believe, going to be her legacy. She does it right. I encourage you to look up Kiva, and here's why I want you to look her up. She is probably more at your level if you're working with women, or even if you're not working with women and you're a man, you can see this progression. And again, let's have conversation in the Facebook group about this. Questions you have, or you can hold them to Friday Jump and talk about it there. But looking at somebody that might be more on your level is important. Now, here's a big change. And this is putting myself out there as being a bit vulnerable, but I think it's important to note. If you Google Firetalker PR, which is my business, you get it all here. Your business on Google, here I am. And I'm also on the first page and the second and part of the third. And this is all about me, but it's related to my business as such. If you put in Lynette Hoy, this is my weak spot. And I'll show you why. And you say, Lynette, what do you mean? There's all these Lynette Hoys. Well, take a closer look. Top, who gets the most bang for her buck there with SEO, is this woman who is a psychologist, and she's been around for 30 plus years, 35 years, and she really takes the top here. Part of the reason why she does is because she does a lot of guest posting, and she thrives on other platforms that are user generated, like medium.com. That's a user generated platform, not a guest posting platform. Theravive, she's got, and many psychologists and therapists and so on have other platforms, not necessarily user generated, but it's where they list, like Psychology Today, if you're a psychologist, things like that. But here's the thing. If you keep scrolling, I finally show up down here. Here's Facebook. Now, here's another thing that Mrs. Hoy really uses well, and that's fine art, because she loves fine art and she is an amazing artist. So what does that mean for us? What that means for us is if you enjoy doing different things and you can tie it back to what you do, which is what Lynette Hoy, the psychologist, does, because it's a form of therapy, right? So if you're coming up with things that you enjoy and you tie it back to your business and what you do, that's truly important. The other thing to think about, and we're going to go into that next time, go into this topic, is about donating your services and your time. And it doesn't always have to be related to your business, but it most certainly helps. And the reason is because of the searchability that it gives you. So I hope this has been a good training for you and you've learned a few things. And I'll be putting more links into what I upload for you, as well as the other trainings. There's some other things I'm going to be loading into the guides. And there's a wonderful article that I found on that's brand new or for this year on where you can go after for guest posting. The more guest posting you do, and the more platforms that you get involved with, like medium.com, and you repurpose and reuse your posts, your blog posts and articles you post on LinkedIn, the better your searchability. So that when the media finds that little garden and it's now so bountiful they can't resist. Why is it bountiful? Why can't they resist? Because everywhere they go looking for you, you show up, you're in full bloom. So take that home with you this evening and dwell on that a bit, ponder it, and let's talk more about it later in the week. I wish you a wonderful evening and a wonderful rest of your week. Take care and we'll see you Friday.